never seen.
Yo, what's up guys? Bill here, Classic Rock and Metal Review. Just thought I'd give you my 2 cents. Finally, getting around to watching the Dio Dreamers Never Die full-length documentary. I didn't even realize it was already streaming since December 1st, so as soon as I found out about it the other day, got right to it. I did watch a few different reviews, here on YouTube. I think for the most part they were pretty accurate, but maybe not completely. I only watched 2 or 3 reviews, so it's not like I watched 10 of them. But I thought they were a little bit misleading and that people were disappointed and such. I thought it was great. I'll tell you why, and I'm going to address the couple of little criticisms people had about it. But I really overall thought it was fantastic. If you guys can like and subscribe, that'd be awesome. Join us in talking about classic rock and metal. You guessed it. All right, 2022 feature-length film documentary. Did get to the theaters, had a little theatrical run. Unfortunately for me, it was, I think 65 miles away was the closest theater, which I do have a couple of theaters close to me that run this kind of stuff. They chose not to, I suppose. So anyway, just got to it the other night. I thought it was great. It's like I said, I'm going to talk about, the overall. So the overall reviews for this, here on YouTube among our favorite other channels, because I watch them too here and there. I don't have as much time now that I'm doing this channel, but I still catch them here and there. And when I couldn't get to Dreamers Never Die in a theater, I did watch a few reviews, people who did. Overall, pretty favorable by almost everyone. I think there was a couple criticisms. I think one was that there was no new concert footage. Nothing really revelatory about Dio himself. Nothing really new that you found out about him you didn't already know from, being a fan or headlines or what have you. And then I also heard that Vivian Campbell, he was not interviewed for the film. All right, so they were like, and I'm not sure about whether Blackmore was or wasn't, or whether somebody had said that. That's possible too, but I was more drawn to the fact that somebody mentioned, Vivian wasn't interviewed for the movie. So going into this the other night, I had all these things in mind. So first of all, I would say it was an excellent overview of Ronnie James Dio's musical career, a little bit with his personal life. I think this thing's almost two hours long, right? I mean, these kind of things can be 4 hours or 6 hours if you start getting into every little aspect. I think for what it was, the intent of the movie was to document Ronnie's, musical career, and he had so many different bands, obviously, right? I think they did a good job of including all the key points of his, musical life. I think they chose to focus on the important changes in direction, going from Elf to Rainbow, Rainbow to Sabbath, etc. And that's where, a lot of the movie sort of lies, in the transitional periods and the success. And of course at the end, fading of metal a bit and sort of rebirth of metal and heaven and hell. I think all of that was just intentionally done. Like I said, I think if they would have dwelled too much on certain specifics and things like that, it would have really just dragged on. Hopefully maybe we get a Blu-ray or a DVD with some bonus footage and there's a longer version of this, because I just thought every second of it was awesome. But I could see how diehard fans would feel maybe a little cheated in that this was lacking new footage or new, let's say, revelations. There was not much about Dehumanizer. It was just kind of glossed right over with the rest of his early 90s material in a way. Although there were some comments from Geezer and Iommi later on, or newer interviews where they talked about that period a little bit. But it was kind of glossed over, I'll admit that much. Going from the grunge, they basically went from the early 90s grunge effects on metal right to the Heaven and Hell period pretty quickly. Not a whole lot about who was even in and out of the band at that point. That was probably, I think, could have been addressed, because there were a bunch of changes, but I think they just could have quickly gone through them. But honestly, I only have his first 3 albums anyway, so solo-wise. I do have to rectify that, I admit. But I think for a lot of us, we only have those first few albums anyway. It would have been cool to learn a little more about the 90s period and so forth, but I don't think it was direly necessary that they did it. But I could see where people would be upset about that. Now, as far as Viv being interviewed, I think going in, I didn't think there were going to be any interviews with him at all, based on the couple of reviews. And there were. They were just old. But I think that he was accurately represented in there. He wasn't didn't have his reputation smeared here. I think the comments they used from him in the past I think he stands by them today. So he was in there. His comments were in there. And I think they were accurate. So I was kind of fine with the portions of Vivian in there. Obviously, there's some bad blood. It's probably never going away at this point, I suppose. At least they were on point, like I said. There's the Eagles, History of the Eagles DVD that came out a while back. 10 years ago now at this point, probably. There were new interviews with Don Felder on there, who has already been, sacked from the band, quit, whatever. Big legal dispute. I'm surprised they even did that. But the clips, I think there's only two or three short clips of Felder used for the History of the Eagles, have him painted as being regretful for leaving the band. And I think it's totally inaccurate. They probably took hours of footage to find 20 seconds of Don, being upset about not being in the Eagles. Yeah, come on, Henley. That's another story for another day. But I think you see my point here. Vivian Campbell might not have been newly interviewed for this, but the comments by him in there that were older fit the sections of the film they were in. I think he still stands by all those comments today. So overall, totally loved it. These were all things I knew about Dio for the most part. Knew about his history starting in the 50s. Trumpet playing. The early bands, the Electric Elves and whatever they were called before that, into Elf, into the Rainbow, all that other stuff. I knew a lot about that stuff. I've seen the pictures, I've seen video clips. I had 6 of his singles downloaded from the late 60s and what have you. I still do. But so I knew about all that period, but it was just cool. I knew about that car accident, but so that was just something I only knew a little bit about. Seeing some pictures from the hospital was cool, and first-hand account by one of the band members. Awesome. They did a good job of incorporating some old friends, some old band members, and just seeing all this footage and all this, documentation of Dio in one 2-hour spot, I thought was friggin' great. I'm actually looking forward to watching it again. I do have Showtime, so I can just click it right on here. But I can't wait for there to be a Blu-ray or DVD. Picking it up right away. I think Kirk was telling me, somebody on here was telling me to watch this. And I didn't realize it was streaming, like I said. So got right to it once I did. Overall, like I said, fantastic. I love music documentaries in general. I'm kind of surprised Showtime didn't put it in my feed, because I watch any musical documentary they put on. Nevertheless, they didn't. So this one's among one of the best I ever saw. It's not probably great for diehard fans. Not a whole lot of new stuff. But as an overall, covering Ronnie's entire career, a little bit of his early life, a little bit of his personal life too, here and there. It wasn't completely devoid of that. Getting to see inside his house, freaking awesome, man. I think it was great. Highly recommend this one. Dio, Dreamers Never Die. Let's get to it as soon as you can. All right, guys, that'll do it for now. If you guys can like and subscribe, that'd be awesome. And I'll talk to you later.